Were you bothered at all when Tyler Perry started to get the type of push that he got when primarily his main platform is dressing up like a woman?
Is his thing. I just think it's very bad for our community particularly. But you see, I worked in Hollywood for 15 years, and they have an agenda. My agenda was to push duty, honor, obligation, responsibility, accountability, and suggest to the public that these were important things that we needed to keep in the forefront of our consciousness. They have a thing where just do what you want to do, forget what impact it has on anybody else. So there are occasional movies that are very successful that push the old duty, honor, obligation, what it means to be a human, tragedy, comedy, humor, drama, where the entertainment says something about human nature, and then there are the ones that say nothing at all, and they're all a Twitter because somebody had such excellent lighting. Okay, fine. A classic example is James Cameron. Now, he did Titanic, which was at one time the highest grossing movie of all time. He did Avatar, which became the highest grossing movie of all time. Interestingly enough, he actually was an oceanographer, and he started documenting what he did. That's how he got into the Hollywood industry. But when he found the Titanic wreck, he was doing that as a cover for the U.S. Navy looking for a Soviet nuclear submarine that had sunk. He has an interesting real-world record, which is he holds the deepest dive solo of any human being. He went to the Marianas Trench bottom, 36,000 feet down, all by himself. See, he's real world. So he's not the most liked person in Hollywood. And I thought it was an injustice to the public when the Academy sat there and did not give the all-time movie box office champ Avatar Best Movie of the Year and gave it to his ex-wife for that very sorry war movie, Hurt Locker, which I'm a war movie fan, and I just had to walk out on that thing. It was so bad. And that's what I did for 15 years, is focus on these real world things. And they didn't want me doing it. And I had no publicity, no advertisement. In Los Angeles, you couldn't even find me in TV Guide. And the biggest question we got was, when is the show on? Is it still on? Well, it'll be back on, and this time we're going to do a first-class public relations job and an advertisement, and the name of the show is True Verdict with Judge Joe Brown. True Verdict. Now, we're going to, let's put it this way, do what we were doing before, but more so without somebody who's got another agenda trying to hold us back on what we are doing. So we will be pushing it. It'll be a first-class operation, and I think you will enjoy watching the judge again try to make sense out of life for the public.
You had Rick James on there.
Yes, I did. I found it very humorous. He was funny.
Can you explain the Rick James situation?
What it was about? Well, here's what happened. One of his former band members had borrowed an instrument and had left it carelessly on the back seat of his car. The car got broken into, the instrument got stolen. And the musician was paying Rick James back for the loss of the device. Well, what happened is they had a quarrel in a bar. Rick James testified somebody was squeezing his behind, and he thought it was one of the women gathered around him, and it turned out to be the musician. So he went all off on the musician. The musician said, Rick, it wouldn't be the first time. And Rick said, you know, I stopped that. I don't play that anymore. So it got real funny. And I ordered the guy to finish paying off Rick James for his lost instrument. But it got pretty hilarious up in there. So we will be dealing with more adult situations. So the show's going to...
You also had Ike Turner on your show.
Yes, twice. Now, I know what they say about Ike Turner being violent to women, but in each instance, here's what the case was about. He and his wife at the time had a foundation, and what they were doing is advancing money to women who were getting brutalized. If they got away from the abusing husband, boyfriend, significant other, whatever it may be, then the money became a gift. If they went back for more, then it became a loan. So in each case, he and his wife had advanced money to women who were getting brutalized. Now, I know what they said in the movie, but that, again, is some unfair hype toward a guy that people on my generation in L.A. think kindly of. We'd see Ike Turner and one of his boys riding around in a Rolls Royce quite often, and he would always stop. We'd be playing basketball or something, or be out on the park or playground, and he'd come over, shake hands with everybody, tell us to stay in school, learn as much as you can, stay out of trouble, don't do drugs, and he'd send his boys to go get hamburgers and fries and Cokes. And, you know, he made a difference. I can remember him for a long time just pulling up randomly and say, son, what are you guys doing? Let me sit down and talk to you. You know who I am? Yeah, we know Mr. Turner. You know, we always respected him. We thought that was a good thing. So there's another side of the story I won't go into. But we had him on there, so we will be doing more of that. Now, another thing back on what's going to happen with this show. There is a series now called The Blacklist. Now, in Hollywood, there actually is a Blacks List, and it was started up by this black man about 12, 14 years ago. And what it is not necessarily a bad thing. All of the studios send in the best scripts they've seen during that year to Blacks List. In other words, these are great scripts. And what happens is about 75% of all these scripts get made into actual movies. Now, with one exception, over all the years, every single one of these movies has been a bad flop except one, and that's probably because Will Smith was playing the lead in Hancock. And that one was a hit, and it's their only hit. And I had a bet with some of the executives that I work with. I can pick what's going to be a hit and what's going to be a flop. No, you can't. We can't. What makes you think you can? Well, let's test it out. Well, I won because the ones that did what Shakespeare did, what the caveman did, what John Wayne did, what a Greco-Roman play did back in antiquity, it showed something about human nature. It was a message in the entertainment instead of something just totally off-brand stupid. There's that kind of humor that you got, say, with Jackie Gleason and Art Carney with The Honeymooners, where, yeah, it was funny, but it said something about life. It's still topical today if you look at it. And then we got Yuck Yuck Slapstick, where all of the boys in the sitcom, you know, they're incompetent, they're cowards, they're dorks, dumb dorks, and they've got a female platonic roommate, classmate, sister, aunt, grandmama, or mama who has to do everything for them because they are incapable. You see, when you get movies like that, nothing happens. They're flops, but if they say something about human nature, then they come into being hits. So we are going to, with True Verdict, focus on those things that are important as messages to get out. If you noticed and you watched my show over a decade and a half, you will have seen that I always tried to relate what was in front of me to the situation that a lot of the viewing audience had. It was something that they would want to show their son or their daughter or a colleague or somebody they lived next door to, because it said something about humanity. It told people something they needed to know that in this day and time they don't. I always thought it was ridiculous to be 35 to 40 and you've never looked at a lease in your life and you're living in an apartment. You know, like, read it. These things are not new. They've only been the law since Robin Hood was running around in Sherwood Forest. But, you know, get the idea. And sometimes it even had a backside that would get funny. I remember I was boogieing down the 101 freeway in L.A., and I got pulled over by this highway patrolman. I said, oh, man, I hope he doesn't bust me for speeding. And he said, are you Judge Joe Brown? I said, yeah. He said, thank you. One of my neighbors sued another one of my neighbors, and you really reamed him out. I said, oh, okay, thank you. And they shook my hands, and I gave them autographs, not on a ticket book or anything, but I gave them autographs. They did some selfies. I got about 10 miles down the road, I got pulled over again. Trooper Gonzalez said that you were coming down here in your yellow Porsche. He said, I want to thank you for, you know, trying to straighten up our neighborhood. And I got another one about 5 miles after that. So, I mean, it has a snowball effect that's positive. People come up and say, I really am glad that you said what you said. And my audience was working. They went to school. They weren't home every day. They would catch me maybe in the break room on the job or student lounge at school, or maybe they were ill or they were on vacation. I can remember one time a friend of mine who's with this show, Cliff Stewart, and I were going through LAX, LA International, and we got to the counter and there was nobody there. And I said, I wonder where everybody is. Well, the one guy that was there started laughing and said, Judge, they're all in the back in the break room watching you. They'll be out here in 5 minutes. And then TSA acted like they went crazy when all these people came out and wanted to come from behind the counter and take pictures. You see, the public wants somebody to give them some word up on what's right and wrong. I've been to high schools and teenagers tell me, Judge, we know that we push the envelope and we do things that we shouldn't do. But we love your show because you tell us what we need to hear that everybody else is afraid to tell us because they don't want to keep us from being their friend. We need them to raise us more than we need them to be our friends. Wait until we get grown, you see. So there's a need for there to be a voice of reason, of right, wrong, ethics, morality, principle, and the rules. You see, that doesn't come to you anywhere on TV. So I tried to be the one that was giving it to you, and I'm going to do it again.